really has changed over the past few years. The car business, I mean. I'd like to think Saturn's had a lot to do with changing it, helping you feel better about buying a car. But these days, people are so strapped for time, they've done their homework long before they ever step foot in a showroom. People like Paul Daigle. When Paul was shopping mid-sized cars, he started with the usual suspects, Camry, Accord. Then he heard about our larger Saturn, the L Series, and got in touch with me to see how it stacked up. I was happy to pass along more details, but the problem is, you can't drive them. And a big part of appreciating this car is just driving it. Feeling the ride and handling the tighter suspension, the interior refinements. I believe we've redefined what mid-size means. Of course, I suspected Paul would assume I was biased. That's why I brought an Accord and Camry along, just in case he had any doubts. But like I said, we're really changing this business.
Who's asking about Viagra? Someone you might expect, and also someone that maybe you wouldn't. In fact, you may be surprised at who's talking to their doctors about Viagra. So ask your doctor if a free trial of Viagra is right for you. Who's asking about Viagra? Maybe it should be you.
From Times Square in New York, Jack Ford and Cynthia McFadden.
Good evening and welcome to 2020 Wednesday.
Diane and Charlie are off this evening. We're happy to be here with you.
We start tonight with a chilling look at the new faces of hate. They're probably not the faces you imagine when you think of right-wing extremist groups. They are women, and now they are stepping out from the shadows and becoming leaders of angry groups that preach hostility, even violence.
These women are powerful new voices, and they're working to guarantee the future of prejudice by raising their children to hate too. We met some of them a few months ago, and were given extraordinary access to their groups and even to their own homes. Tonight, we revisit to hear who they are, how they operate, and what they have planned.
For God! For God! For our children! For our children! For the future of the white race! For the future of the white race!
The Ku Klux Klan, neo-Nazis, and gay bashers.
God hates fags. Fags are worthy of death.
Today, these hate mongers often have large and sometimes dangerous followings. And experts warn there's a strong new voice emerging from within their ranks. Recent research estimates women now make up 25% of many hate groups, and nearly half the new recruits. Women like Shirley Phelps Roper.
There's a God in heaven, and it is not okay to be gay.
Rachel Pendergraft.
Without a doubt, the name Ku Klux Klan stands for white people.
And Christina Metzger.
I would like to see the white race and racially conscious white people have a safe place to raise their children, separate from all of the races.
Would you and your group espouse violence if necessary in order to accomplish that?
Yes, absolutely.
So what's attracting women to the far right? For many, it's a twisted version of family values, largely being promoted on the internet. There are web locations honoring the virtues of Aryan moms, sites for white pride women, and even Aryan dating pages. The message seems to be the best way to keep a member is to raise one. It's nearly 7 a.m. The kids are getting breakfast.
You get a white dog fish in here.
Dad's rushing off to work.
Where's your briefcase?
And the sounds of violin and piano practice fill the house. It may seem like a typical American family, but it's not. This is the home of Shirley Phelps Roper. She's a leader in the Westboro Baptist Church, a group better known by its internet address, God Hates Fags.
The message is, you may not live this lifestyle and expect to die and go to heaven. And that is only a kindness that you would share that message with people who seem to not know it.
But when members brought their message to the funeral of Matthew Shepard, onlookers didn't see it as an act of kindness.
It boggles my mind that these people are here at a funeral doing this, protesting.
Shepard, you may remember, is the gay college student who in 1998 was severely beaten, tied to this fence post outside Laramie, Wyoming, and left to die.
Matthew Shepard is in hell, and he has been now for more than a year.
Did you rejoice in the murder of Matthew Shepard because he was gay?
Heavens, no.
But it looks like you are.
But you understand, there's only one important event that occurred the day Matthew Shepard was beat to death. The important event was that he entered hell for eternity.
Sodomy is no civil right. Wham! That's Bible. That's Bible.
Reverend Fred Phelps is Shirley's father and the founder of God Hates Fags. He has a flock of faithful followers, mostly family. But unlike many other hate groups, this one doesn't actively recruit members, it creates them. Phelps has 13 children and nearly 50 grandchildren.
Those howling sodomites were stricken with blindness.
But with the patriarch of the family getting older, Shirley and her siblings are starting to take over.
That Christ liveth in me.
How can women be nurturers, love givers, and caregivers, and yet lead a group that talks about hating others?
Are you kidding me? I have 10 children. I love each one of those children. It is the highest form of love to remind people that there is a God in heaven, and one day you must stand before that God, and you don't want to be an unrepentant, practicing homosexual.
And like her father, Shirley intends to make sure all 10 of her children follow that same philosophy.
Setteth up over it the basest of men. Do you know what the basest of men means?
Low life.
Low lives, yeah.
And the education doesn't stop here. Shirley and other members proudly bring their children to the picket lines.
Why would you bring your children there?
When you go to worship the Lord God, you do it with your sons and your daughters. It is a wonderful education for them.
Because, the Phelps say, despite appearances, they don't hate homosexuals, God does.
What if someday one of your children comes to you and says, Mom, I have to tell you something. I'm a homosexual.
You understand, you're asking me a question that's almost impossible to occur. You see, you don't just accidentally look up one day and you got a homosexual sitting over here.
But don't you think there are other parents who have been surprised when their child has come to them and said to them, Mom, Dad, I have to tell you something, I'm a homosexual?
I'm sure they're surprised, but the problem is that they conducted their affairs in such a way that they never gave any care to the soul of that child.
I felt that what my parents had taught me was correct.
What Rachel Pendergraft learned from her parents was racism. She was wearing a white robe as a grade schooler, white power t-shirts as a teenager, and today she's on the National Grand Council of the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, dressed in its official uniform. Her father, Thomas Robb, is the leader of the Knights. So what's it like to be raised in the Klan? Pendergraft allowed 2020 a rare glimpse at the way she is raising her children. Although Pendergraft went to public school, she's not letting her kids go there. Instead, she homeschools them. And on the day 2020 visited, the two little girls were practicing reading and writing right at Klan headquarters in rural Arkansas.
She should have listened to her parents.
Yes.
Right, okay. To me, the old-time religion, Christianity, and the Ku Klux Klan is synonymous. So I believe I'm giving them a good Christian upbringing.
Just a table away from where she was teaching her girls, other Klan members were busily stuffing envelopes with KKK literature. And in between burping and feeding her infant son, Pendergraft was taking care of Klan business.
We want people who are success-oriented and join the organization because they have a love for our people, not necessarily because, they hate someone else. All right.
But she's not exactly teaching her kids acceptance of others. For instance, listen to what she says about Sesame Street.
Elmo thinks Whoopi's skin is a very pretty brown.
Sesame Street promotes a one-world agenda. It promotes social integration, which we believe leads to intermarriage and genocide of the white race.
My name is Thomas Robb, National Director for the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, and...
Pendergraft thinks one day she may take over for her father. If so, she would most likely be the first female leader of a male-dominated Klan. And she already seems to know the battle cry.
It's our nation our future that's at stake, and we need women in the movement.
Not only do I not want to be around non-white people, I don't want to be around white people who are not racially conscious.
Unlike the other women we've met, Christina Metzger says that she wasn't taught to hate as a child. Instead, she learned many of her bigoted beliefs from her father-in-law, Tom Metzger. He's the founder of White Aryan Resistance, or WAR, and host of a show called Race and Reason.
Women are coming forward in droves like they never did before because they see their home, their children's being attacked in the school.
WAR's rallying cry is far more violent than the other groups we visited. Take a look at its website, filled with racist and anti-Semitic cartoons. This group is not softening its message to attract women, but apparently it doesn't have to. Christina is just one of many women to join in the past decade, and now she is one of its leaders, who, along with her husband, John, create the website and a newspaper, also covered in sick, violent images.
The critics of your organization say that you are, far more so than other groups, encouraging violence.
Good.
Why is that good?
I say resist what's going on now because it's so wrong for our race.
So how are their children raised? The Metzgers wouldn't let us meet or photograph their 3 young sons, but we acquired this video from them of a war festival from the late 1980s and early 90s. Here, children were encouraged to join in the neo-Nazi and anti-government activities. Kids even watched as adults burned swastikas and the American flag. Christina and John Metzger plan to pass these family prejudices onto their children.
You'd have no problem saying to your children, here's the lesson I want you to learn from your mother.
Here's the lesson, exactly.
You should hate that person over there.
I would have no problem, and I have had no problem saying that child will not be a best friend to you. That child will not come home for dinner. That child, because they are of a different race.
While women seem to be the key to creating future generations of haters, they may also just be the secret to breaking that cycle of hate.
This is really, really perverse stuff.
That is how Kirsten Kaiser now views the racist beliefs of her ex-husband, Kevin Alfred Strom, and she talked about it for the first time with 2020. She says that for nearly 9 years, he tried to convince her and their 3 children that his way was the only way.
All that he ever kept saying was how the Jews wanted to kill our son or rape our son or abduct our son. He always was making me read stuff about how every synagogue has to be built on the bones of a white male child.
So why did she stay? Kaiser claims it was a slow indoctrination.
They start as being these really nice, you know, bright, shining people. And that's really very, very appealing at a very core level. It's not until later that you start getting into all this mind control stuff. And see, you don't realize that it's happening to you until it's like kind of too late.
So what finally drove her away from the hatred? She says it was her husband's reaction to news about these teenagers who discarded their newborn son in a dumpster and left him to die.
He said that it was a good thing that this had happened because the man had been a Gentile and the woman had been a Jew, and I just completely cracked. Just totally cracked at that point. It was an instantaneous thing that I realized that I was married to a monster, that I had aided and abetted a monster.
But the other women we've met in this story still seem determined to ensure that hatred survives, no matter what the cost.
What would you do if some years down the road, your son comes home and says, Mom, I know what you've taught me all these years, but I've met a black woman and I've fallen in love with her. What'd you do?
How sad. I would spend probably many an evening crying, and I would say goodbye to him.
You'd say goodbye to him?
Yes, I would.
And have nothing to do with him?
Absolutely nothing.
Jack, how aggressively are these women recruiting other women?
What's interesting, Cynthia, is not only are they out there recruiting, but they're using the qualities that we often associate, the positive qualities with women: intelligence, organizational skills, compassion, and they're using those as recruiting tools, and they're being very effective with it.
Tell me, how is Kirsten Kaiser, the ex-wife of the neo-Nazi, what is her situation now?
Right now, she's sharing custody of the children with her ex-husband. She's fighting for sole custody on her own. Also, she has said that the children are having a tough time reconciling the two very different views of right and wrong of their parents, and two of them are actually seeing psychologists.
Jack, it's such an interesting, important report.
It is indeed one that we have to pay attention to, Cynthia. And if you'd like more on this story, including exclusive video of women at a KKK ceremony, you can visit our website at 2020.abcnews.com. We'll be right back.
A father and 3 boys shipwrecked in a storm. They could see the lights of the city, so why did they die?
There was more than one opportunity for them to have been saved.
Cynthia McFadden with a gripping mystery at sea when 2020 continues.
Summer breeze makes me feel fine, blowing through the jasmine in my mind.
Summer breezes from Hampton Bay. The fans more people look up to than any other. Buy them at the Home Depot.
Can a computer think? Can it learn? Can software be developed that acts exactly like the human brain? For 50 years, that's been the question. Today, Nugents are the answer. Using a patented breakthrough in neural network technology, Computer Associates has created the first software that can think. Imagine what this new software can do for your business. Nugents, software that can think.
Good morning.
The way that you walk, it's just the way that you talk, like it ain't no thing, and every single day is just a fling.
When it comes to windows, you know Windex Outdoor works great.
Hey, buddy.
But you should see how Windex Outdoor cleans all kinds of outdoor stuff. Because Windex Outdoor's powerful sprayer and concentrated formula helps clean away outdoor grime in no time. Windex Outdoor, a beautiful shine, a lot less time.
Thanks.
S.C. Johnson, a family company.
Beautiful hair color. I've got it wrapped around my little finger. I use Excellence Cream, the protective color from L'Oreal. You see, Excellence wraps every strand in rich insulating cream that doesn't drip. So protective, I can color whenever I want, as often as I want. And grays? What grays? Excellence Cream, the protective color from L'Oreal Paris. Wrap yourself in beautiful color, because you're worth it.
Right for 125.
Tuesday night, David Goodman got all the way to the $1 million question without a single lifeline. Then,
I think I'd like to use the audience. Use that 50-50. I'm going to call my friend Hagai.
So what's your final answer, big boy?
I will say B, Peru.
You just won $1 million.
an all-new Who Wants to Be a Millionaire tomorrow, 9/8 Central on ABC.
We're the final 5. This is the group. It's our first performance. We have to make it happen.
The guys face their biggest challenge.
We can do it. I know we can.
There's no going back.
You can't be a centimeter off.
This time, they need to be perfect.
This is not about being famous.
From start to stardom, you'll be there to see it all. Making the Band, Friday, 9/8 Central on ABC.
Movies like The Perfect Storm show us how dangerous it can be far out on the open sea. But nature's fury can rise up much closer to shore, taking even experienced sailors by surprise. In this case, a father and 3 young boys died in stormy waters within easy reach of a Coast Guard station. How were they shipwrecked, and why did no one come to their aid? Tonight, we meet again the grieving wife and mother, determined to find some answers. can be unforgiving and unpredictable. It can overwhelm even the most experienced sailor and destroy even the most carefully made plans. For 200 years, mariners have depended upon the U.S. Coast Guard to help them when disaster strikes. But ever since one woman lost her entire family in a shipwreck off Charleston, South Carolina 2 years ago, questions about how the Coast Guard responded have shaken the venerable institution.
So many wrong things happened. There's more than one opportunity for them to have been saved. They just missed them all.
The last time Libby Cornett saw her family alive was when her sons, Paul and Daniel, kissed her goodbye and left with their father, Michael, and cousin, Bobby Lee Jr., setting sail on the 34-foot Morning Dew from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, to Jacksonville, Florida, where they were to meet up with her. It was the boys' dream vacation. Were your sons excited about the prospect?
Oh, they were so excited. Paul and Daniel stayed on the phone with Bobby Lee, talking about what they were going to take and what kinds of CDs they were going to take with them.
Bobby Lee's father, Bobby Hurd Sr., said the three cousins were best buddies.
We called them the three amigos. They were real close. Every time they got together, like it was a big deal. It was a great adventure.
While 14-year-old Bobby Lee hadn't done much sailing, his cousins, who were 16 and 13, had. In fact, Paul, the oldest, was born while his family was living on a sailboat.
We taught Paul and Daniel how to sail from early on.
And while the family had sailed many times on the open ocean, this trip down the intercoastal waterway, known to sailors as the Ditch, was planned as an easy family trip. There are some mothers who would say, at the prospect of her husband and children and nephews sailing from Myrtle Beach to Florida, I'm terrified, don't do this. This was not your reaction to this plan.
No, this was going to be strictly an intercoastal trip. There were never any plans to go offshore.
Michael Cornett's other passion, besides sailing, was music. He was raised on country. His second cousin, June Carter, married singing legend Johnny Cash. Cornett himself was an accomplished composer and musician. Not surprising, many of his songs were about the sea.
Say from gale and storm, but I found that easy life was so much harder.
December 26th. The trip started off as planned. Mike and the boys stowed their gear, 5 life preservers and a pile of CDs among their stuff. They spent the night on board. December 27th. Mike and the boys pushed off from the berth just after noon. Mike checked the weather. Clear sailing all day was predicted, although storms were forecast for late the next day. December 28th, the second day on the water. At 2:30 in the afternoon, the Morning Dew passed a salvage boat. Ronnie Campbell was at the helm. He says he watched as the Morning Dew made a devastating mistake. Instead of heading into the intercoastal waterway, Mike Cornett apparently missed the channel marker and sailed the boat out toward open sea.
Well, he went this direction, but he should have went to the right, which was the intercoastal waterway. That's the last time I seen him.
Locals say it's a turn that plenty of pleasure boats miss. But missing it means turning around or ending up in the shipping channel and open ocean.
I tried to hail him on the radio just to find out, if he was going the wrong way so he would know, but he never did come back on the radio. And I said, well, he'll turn around when he gets to the ocean like most of them do, but obviously he didn't turn around.
Didn't turn around even though the weather was getting worse.
Was your husband a qualified sailor to have 3 little kids out on a boat with him?
Oh, absolutely. I know in my heart that Mike would never have done anything to put those boys in danger.
Though danger was right around the corner. Mike Cornett decided to sail the next 50-mile leg of the trip to Charleston in open ocean. But the weather turned bad even faster than predicted. Johnny Sturr was an apprentice pilot working Charleston Harbor that night.
Quite frankly, it was miserable. The winds were blowing at the northeast, probably about 25, maybe 30 knots. Seas were roughly 5 feet.
10 hours after missing the turn for the intercoastal waterway, the Morning Dew approached the mouth of Charleston Harbor. When they saw the flickering lights of the city, they must have thought they had made it.
raining, it was cold. I'm sure they must have had an absolutely miserable transit from Georgetown to here. How they even made it this far, I don't know.
But with the winds approaching gale force, something went terribly wrong. The Morning Dew crashed onto the rocks of the Charleston jetty. It was just after 2 in the morning, and they were just 1 mile from shore. 9 hours later, at 11 a.m., a tourist called the police saying that 2 bodies had washed up on the beach. 2 teenagers, only partially clothed. Near them was a rescue ring with the words, Morning Dew. Within hours, Paul's body would be found too, but it would be 3 weeks before Mike's body was discovered, and Libby Cornett knew for certain her entire family had drowned at sea.
You might well have been on that boat with them.
I wish I had been, yes.
Do you think you could have done something different?
Maybe, but we were a family, we belonged together. I should have been with them.
After the tragedy, Libby came to Charleston, weighed down by grief and by questions. What happened in those early morning hours?
I had to know. I had to keep going. I had to keep pushing to know.
She says what she discovered after months of searching was that her family did not have to die. What startling details did Libby Cornett learn about that tragic night? Could her family have been saved? The dramatic conclusion when we continue.
The storm, the story of that night, and missed opportunities so close to shore.
This was clearly a mayday. Someone screaming on the water for help.
When 2020 continues.
All right, everybody, gather around. Potter up. Yes! Yes! All together now. I didn't have my A game today. Up, down, kiss.
You may not be able to play like Tiger Woods, but at least now you'll be able to drive like he does. The 240 horsepower Regal by Buick, official car of the PGA Tour.
This limited edition hat is embroidered with Tiger's signature. Visit tiger.buick.com to learn how to get yours today.
Have you seen the best comedy of the summer? Time, Newsweek, Entertainment Weekly, and People Magazine have all discovered The Kid. Roger Ebert and the movies give it 2 thumbs up.
How's many you?
Bruce Willis, Disney's The Kid. Rated PG, now playing.
It's not just a new sign. It's a new Midas. Expanded services, new genuine Midas parts, a lifetime guarantee. We're more than mufflers. We're a new way to keep a good thing going. Go Midas.
Just when you think you have the latest computer, you don't. But with the YourWare program, you can trade it in toward the purchase of a new one after 2 years. For $28 a month, get a Gateway Essential PC with an Intel Celeron processor and a year of AOL included. Call 1-800-GATEWAY.
Thanks for making a leave. For almost 5 years, I had a hard time walking. I went from doctor to doctor and even had surgery on both knees. Pain relievers like Tylenol quit after a few hours and the pain came back. Finally, a doctor suggested a leave. Within a week, I was dancing all night like I hadn't done in years. Aleve can stop pain all day with just 2 pills. It would take 8 Tylenol to do that. Now people say I'm a walking advertisement for Aleve. All day strong, all day long.
Sunday, an exclusive interview with candidate Bush. From the campaign to the conventions to who his running mate will be. Looking for answers? Look no further. This week, Sunday.
I think there's somebody in my apartment. Judge Kittleson? Get out!
A grieving mother, shocked to hear her son's last words. Was his frantic cry for help ignored? Then, can't help but yawn, Don't blame yourself. You can't help it, and we'll tell you why. When 2020 continues, after this from our ABC stations.
Lincoln grew during the war, but he didn't grow much.
A new book claims Abraham Lincoln was forced into freeing the slaves. Tonight on News 7 at 11, we'll talk to the author of the controversial tome that states that Lincoln didn't want to end slavery. I'm Kathleen Matthews, and also tonight, the driver who hit and killed an American University student is sentenced. You'll get reaction from the victim's family. Also, a police chief ends with officers beating the suspect while a camera rolls overhead. Tonight on News 7 at 11.
In all of the universe, there's only one place to view the stars. The Nissan Pavilion at Stone Ridge, where music lives and breathes.
Approved V6 7-passenger enormously helpful Odyssey from Honda. It's one big happy minivan.
How do you enhance a V8 engine that produces 245 horsepower? A chassis that can haul up to 2,000 pounds. Or brakes that have 4 piston calipers. Simple. Add about 6 pounds of steel. Toyota Tundra, Motor Trend Truck of the Year, and 4-Wheel and Off-Road Magazine's 4x4 of the Year.
We'll celebrate the Bay from Virginia's Eastern Shore tomorrow on Good Morning Washington.
We continue now with a mystery at sea. Libby Cornett was determined to learn why her whole family died in the sinking of their boat, the Morning Dew. How could it have happened so close to shore and so close to a U.S. Coast Guard rescue station? Cynthia takes up those questions.
It took 3 days for the water to calm down enough for salvage crews to recover the Morning Dew. And while we may never know precisely what happened that night, Libby Cornett believes her husband was tossed overboard on impact and that her oldest son dived in the water to help him. Investigators say the sailboat was driven across the top of the jetty by the rising tide. Libby Cornett believes the younger boys stayed with the boat as long as they could.
They were out there alone. It was cold. Late at night. And they could literally see the city. The whole city of Charleston. The lighthouse right there and the harbor was right there in front of them. I just kept thinking they're sitting there and they're seeing this and hoping that help is going to come.
But of course, help never did come. In fact, the Coast Guard told Libby the Morning Dew never even sent a call for help.
My family and friends had called and asked the Coast Guard, had there been any distress calls? The answer was no. I kept asking questions. I kept saying, this makes no sense to me. I can't accept this.
And Libby Cornett soon found out she was right. There was more to the story. She now believes there were 2 chances her family could have been saved, and both times the Coast Guard failed her. 2.5 months after the accident, the terror of that night was made real when the commander of Base Charleston came to see her.
He pulled out his tape player and put a tape in it and asked me if I could recognize the voice.
Mayday, U.S. Coast Guard, come in.
Yeah, I immediately knew it was Daniel.
Her 13-year-old had managed to make a 4-second Mayday call on the frequency reserved for maritime emergencies.
He sounded like he needed help. He was calling for help. After that, I realized, I said, my God, they could have been saved.
The desperate call for help was received at the Charleston Coast Guard Station, where radio traffic is monitored 24 hours a day. On that night, 23-year-old Petty Officer Eric Shelley was standing watch. At precisely 2:17 a.m., he was here, 17 feet away from the radio console, getting himself a cup of coffee. He heard something come in on Channel 16, the maritime equivalent of 911. Though Petty Officer Shelley tried several times to reach the caller,
Vessel calling Coast Guard, this is Coast Guard Group Charleston.
Vessel calling Coast Guard, this is Coast Guard Group Charleston, over. He did not tell his supervisors about it and did not send anyone to investigate. Libby Cornett believes her family might have been saved if he had. It was at a National Transportation Safety Board hearing a year after the shipwreck that Libby Cornett got her first look at Officer Shelley. One of the board members had many of the same questions that she had.
Did you log in the 0217 call?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any particular reason why?
I didn't believe there was anything to put into the log. I did not hear what later was determined. They said Mayday. I did not hear that Mayday call.
But why not replay the 4-second message just to be sure? Officer Shelley said he found the equipment just too cumbersome to rewind. Another Coast Guard officer testified it was just like trying to locate a particular scene when rewinding your VCR. To his credit, the very morning the bodies were found, Officer Shelley remembered that 217 call and told his supervisors it might have something to do with the accident. Upon repeated listening, they all heard the word Mayday. Why then had it taken the Coast Guard 2.5 months to tell Libby Cornett about that call?
I don't think that they wanted it to become public knowledge that they had messed up so badly and that they had let my family die.
Somebody in the Coast Guard was afraid to release the tape, it sounds like.
I actually take offense to that.
Admiral James Hull is in charge of policy for the U.S. Coast Guard. He says the tape wasn't released because the Coast Guard was conducting an internal investigation.
I don't think anybody was ever afraid to release that tape. I think it was a function of they were trying to get the facts and do what they thought was right, and when the time came, in their opinion, to get it out, they gave it out.
They had no right to keep me from hearing my son's last words and to know what happened. They had no right to do that.
As painful as that episode was for Libby Cornett to fathom, she believes there was yet another opportunity for her family to be saved.
We do know that there was another chance for rescue after 6 in the morning.
That's right. 4 hours after the Morning Dew struck the jetty, at least one of its passengers was apparently alive in the water, screaming for help. Just before dawn, the Coast Guard was notified that a sailor, leaning on the rail of a freighter entering Charleston Harbor, heard cries for help coming from the water in the vicinity of Buoy 22, not far from the jetty. Again, it was Officer Shelley who took the call.
He heard somebody yelling for help.
They weren't able to talk to him any?
Well, no, somebody in the water.
Oh, somebody in the water.
Yeah, that's what they think.
A pilot boat was in the area and offered to check it out. Johnny Sturr was the captain of that boat.
Well, I assumed somebody was drowning. So I went straight to the buoy. I got there and saw nobody.
But as a pilot boat operator, Johnny Sturr was not trained in search and rescue.
It would have been nice to have had some help, especially professionals that are trained in it.
But back at the Coast Guard station, Petty Officer Michael Sass, Officer Shelley's boss, with 17 years of professional experience, decided against launching the rescue boat or helicopter, both of which were standing by. Libby Cornett charges that Sass's decision was a direct violation of Coast Guard policy.
Did you notify any of your supervisors about the call?
No, ma'am.
Did you ask any questions concerning their search?
No, ma'am.
We asked Admiral Hull to listen to that tape with the reported call for help from the water.
I have not heard that tape before. Judgments were made.
As I understand it, though, Admiral, every Mayday is investigated. This was clearly a Mayday. Someone screaming on the water for help.
I can only tell you the facts. That, again, you had a mariner saying he heard this.
That's not good enough? You now know a location, Buoy 22.
We had what in the opinion of the person on watch, professionals out there looking who go through this area all the time to check the situation. In the opinion of the person on watch, his judgment was there were people out there looking at it, using all available assets, and he made a judgment call.
But it was the wrong judgment call, according to Commander William Lee, who conducted an internal Coast Guard review about the handling of the accident.
Obviously, hindsight being what it is, it was poor judgment. There are several things he could have done that should have been done. But again, I don't know that he violated any specific policies in making that judgment.
Whether or not the Coast Guard violated its own policies by not launching a search and rescue is at the heart of Libby Cornett's lawsuit against the Coast Guard for the wrongful death of her family. Admiral Hull denies that the Coast Guard has any legal responsibility for the tragedy, but says those who serve the Coast Guard feel sadness, too.
The sea is a very dangerous and unforgiving place. We respond based on the situation at hand. Those two individuals on watch would give anything to save those lives. I would. Anybody would. Unfortunately, we can't save every life out there, but that's our goal.
All distress calls should be answered. None should ever be dismissed. I don't ever want any other mother or family to have to go through this when one shouldn't have to.
You better hold tight to your sons and daughters. Teach them to swim in troubled waters. If they turn their cheek, it doesn't mean they're weak. They've got a soul to keep.
Such a terrible tragedy. What's happened with the investigation?
Well, Jack, the National Transportation Safety Board issued this report. In it, they say that the probable cause of the shipwreck itself was Michael Cornett's decision to go out to sea, but that life was probably lost because of the actions of the Coast Guard, what they call the substandard performance of the Coast Guard group.
How about Libby Cornett? How's she doing?
Well, Libby Cornett, of course, is anxious for her day in court. She will go to court in the civil lawsuit. She says it's not about the money, but she hopes preventing similar incidences in the future. On a personal level, she struggles every day. She says she's only once been able to go into her son's bedroom.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We dare you to do it. Stop yourself from yawning or laughing.
Despite our best efforts, we respond with a...
Michael Gillett with Why We Can't Help Ourselves when 2020 continues.
Lonely, hi, Mr. Lonely.
Now Whisk will not only clean your laundry, but also help reduce wrinkles, so you iron less.
I'm so lonely.
Introducing Whisk with Wrinkle Reducer, the first and only laundry detergent specially formulated to help reduce wrinkles. Whisk. Do it once, do it right, do it less.
You've always trusted us with your letters, your bills, your packages. Now, we're bringing the security and confidence of the real world into the virtual one. Introducing the U.S. Postal Service's e-bill pay. Enroll now to receive, pay, and send your bills online with the service you already know and trust.
Fly like an eagle into the future.
Oh, leave me alone. Why miss calls when you're online? Get free internet call waiting when you switch to Sprint 1000. Oh, yeah. Call now at 1-800-PIN-DROP.
When was the last time your head, your heart, and your stomach agreed on anything? Schlotsky's. Funny name. Serious sandwich.
2020, the winner of over 350 awards for excellence in broadcast journalism, now always on abcnews.com. For more on the stories, interactive features, and live chats, go to 2020.abcnews.com.
tonight.
I'd rather have a president who does it to a woman than a president that does it to the rest of us the whole 4 years.
There's a sound bite I think we can all live by.
Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher.
It's time to sit back, relax with a friend. Let's get a bite, let's have a drink, let's get together. Have Bennigan's.
Come to Bennigan's. It's the best of Irish hospitality and the best of American food. Now get our fire-roasted salsa shrimp and a juicy USDA center-cut sirloin. It's Bennigan's steak and shrimp combo. Bennigan's. Let's get together.
It's the Volkswagen High Performance Driving School. Want to go? Buy or lease a new Jetta 1.8T during the month of July, and you're in.
So, have you ever been overcome with laughter, unable to stop yourself, no matter how hard you tried? What about yawning? Can you resist the urge when you see somebody else yawn? Most people can't. And science editor Michael Gillen is here to tell you why.
More ancient than cavemen, more contagious than a cold. We're talking about yawning and laughing, yawns and yucks. So common, we take them for granted, yet so scientifically mysterious. This professor has devoted much of his career trying to figure out why, when we yawn or laugh, others around us just can't help but yawn or laugh too.
Now, will you laugh for me now? What can I do that makes you laugh?
Anything.
Wait, let me try something here.
It isn't always the most dignified line of work, but Professor Robert Provine doesn't mind. After years of working out in the field or in his lab at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, he's published most of what we know about yawning and laughing, beginning with the basics.
How do you scientifically define a human laugh?
Well, a human laugh is a series of short vowel-like exhalations that last about a 1/15 of a second and occur about every 1/5 of a second. These sounds can be ha 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 ha, or they can be or oh gosh. But there's only so many ways you can laugh.
World over, Provine says, people may laugh at different things, like here on Italian TV, but they always laugh the same way. And talk about contagious. Provine says our brains react automatically to laughter.
The president's remarks are a little more pointed than that.
Accusing the Republicans
Everyone's experienced cases where you've had laughing fits or so-called laugh jags.
He accused the Republicans of purposely setting out to simply protect the rich.
Right.
When these automatic structures in our brain take control, we're just basically going along for the ride.
I should take this on the road!
So why did we evolve this weird contagious behavior? Well, says Provine, laughter has a way of breaking down barriers, of putting people at ease. In fact, he's discovered something absolutely incredible. 90% of the time, we laugh or giggle not at jokes, but at mundane comments like, hey, great shirt you're wearing. All because it's a way of bonding with people we like.
Laughter is a form of social glue. It's a way of bringing people into the fold. Because people that laugh together are your friends, they're your family, they're your relatives, they're people that you've chosen to be part of your unit.
Hollywood doesn't need any lessons from scientists about the power of contagious laughter. For decades, shows like the Brady Bunch have been using laugh tracks to make audiences howl as one.
Thank goodness goodness, you saved the cake!
The sound of laughter is a special kind of sonic key, and despite our best efforts, we respond with a...
Even preachers tap into the unifying power of contagious laughter. On the flip side, says Provine, a group can use the unifying power of laughter for a darker purpose.
If you get together with your friends and you laugh together, you know, that's a very pleasurable way of saying, hey, you're my friend, we're part of this unit. But if that group gets together and laughs at another person,
Poor George.
it's a way of casting them out from the group, and it's a very different kind of thing.
He can't help it.
And we call that special kind of laughter jeering or ridicule.
He was born with a silver foot in his mouth.
While true laughter is uniquely human, yawning is not. All kinds of animals yawn, although only in humans is yawning contagious.
Actually, people enjoy yawning, because when I had them rate from 1 bad to 10 good for yawns, I got ratings in the 8 range. So people said that yawns really feel good.
Only problem is they can also be embarrassing. So pity all those public figures who at the most awkward moments are gripped by that overwhelming, uncontrollable urge to yawn.
After 60 days, a Medicare patient begins...
Yawning is extraordinarily contagious. Seeing a person yawn triggers yawns. Reading about yawning causes yawns. Talking about yawning right now is going to trigger yawns in anyone that hears us. I'd like you to watch the video screen for the next 5 minutes.
In his research, in fact, Provine found students not only react to full yawning faces, even when they see only part of a yawning face. They just can't fight the urge.
So that's why, in fact, when I shield my mouth if I'm yawning, somebody in the room is probably going to still yawn,
Yes.
right?
So shielding the mouth is a futile gesture.
Early on in his research, Provine demolished that oldest of wives' tales, that we yawn in order to get more oxygen to the brain. Even with 100% oxygen, his subjects still yawned just as much. Next, Provine tackled the boredom theory.
You're just bored, and so you yawn. Is
Well,
that true?
yawning, that's an aspect of folklore that's been substantiated in the lab. If you put a person in a room and have them watch something really boring, like a color test pattern, they're going to produce a lot of yawns.
That's because, says Provine, yawning is about transitions, big changes in your body's biology. Often from alertness to sleepiness, yes, but just as often from sleepiness to alertness.
Time to wake up.
Like when you're waking up in the morning, or pumping yourself up just before a big event.
A track and field event, sometimes you'll find participants in the race of their life will be standing around on the sidelines or in the starting block, and they may be yawning.
And since yawning is contagious, it helps synchronize group behavior, like preschoolers preparing for nap time. In other words, as with laughter, yawning is unifying.
When you see someone yawn, you're initiating a chain reaction of biology. So whatever changes in our body are brought about by yawning are synchronized in everyone that's doing it. So whether it's to wake you up or to put you to sleep, you're going to be synchronizing.
So next time you marvel at the fruits of humanity's teamwork, stop and think about all the little yawns and yucks that help to unify us, to coordinate our behavior, to make all those incredible collective feats possible, or at the very least, make our lives together a little more pleasant.
So you like my laughter. My laughter makes you laugh. Well, I'd like you to know you make me laugh a lot, too.
Well, you did Good Morning America. Are you laughing or yawning?
Sometimes both, as a matter of fact,
At the same
and not
time.
necessarily planned.
That's right. We'll take either response. And for more on this story, including an interactive test that will challenge your ability to fend off a yawn, visit our website at 2020.abcnews.com.
Police pull a suspect out of a cruiser and beat him on the street. It's all caught on videotape. Also, a controversial new book claims that Abraham Lincoln didn't want to free the slaves. You'll hear from the author next on News 7 at 11.
extra amenities in your life lead to greater happiness? Are 64 crayons in a box better than 8? Is there such a thing as too many cable channels? Introducing the all-new, redesigned Avalon, the most luxurious, most refined sedan we've ever created.
Announcing the Michelin 35th anniversary sale. Every Michelin on sale right now only at Sears. It's the biggest Michelin sale ever at Sears, with the lowest prices of the season. Every passenger, performance, light truck, and SUV tire. Now all Michelin styles on sale. But hurry to Sears. The good life at a great price, guaranteed.
Coming up on 2020 Friday, they wanted to learn to dance and signed up for lessons at a local dance school. But these women say instructors stole their hearts to get their money.
Did he send you flowers?
Yes, he did, every week.
Did this dance school take advantage of lonely women and get away with their life savings? Arnold Diaz investigates on 2020 Friday at 10, 9 Central. Well, that's our program for tonight. We thank you for joining us. I'm Cynthia McFadden, wishing all of you a good night.
And I'm Jack Ford. Don't forget Nightline after your local news. And I'll see you tomorrow morning on Good Morning America. From all of us here at 2020, have a good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
The world television premiere, The Sky's on Fire, ABC Saturday, 8, 7 Central. You're watching Washington's ABC 7. We're on your side. This is News 7 at 11 with Maureen Bunyan.
Police in Philadelphia pull a suspect out of a stolen cruiser and beat him right there on the street. The entire episode is caught on videotape. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kathleen Matthews. Maureen has the night off.